my name is Shayla and welcome to my new shelves. This is just my manga side. I don't have my book side finished quite yet, but I needed to get this up to you, so I wanted to film in front of my new shelves, give you guys a little sneak peek at my library makeover vlog that will be coming your way soon. So just know that I'm now going to have white shelves. I will leave all the information on these particular shelves down in the comments below in case you have questions. I've sent some snaps to some friends and they're like, oh my gosh, what kind of shelves are these? Where'd you get them? I did get them from IKEA and all the information will be linked down below. So hopefully you can pick them up if you are interested in these kinds of shelves. So these ones do have an extra shelf higher for me, which is really nice. And they are a tad deeper than my last set. So I'm just really excited overall at the new look, and I hope you guys enjoy it too as we film. But that's not why we're here today. Today, we are here to do my January wrap-up. So really quick, I've started tracking some things in my bullet journal, so I'm going to share those particular stats with you really quick, and then we will jump into the actual titles that I read this month. So when it comes to books that I read this month, I read 19 books. When it comes to manga that I read this month, I read 16 volumes of manga. And when it comes to audiobooks read, I have 6 audiobooks that I listened to this month. And all of that leads to a total number of pages of 10,357 pages. Now remember, I am counting the pages for the audiobooks and all of the manga, so this number may feel a little bit skewed to some people, but it is book media that I consumed in the month, so these are how the numbers look. I also did break down demographics for manga because I want to make sure I'm reading at least one in each demographic a month, so let's go ahead and dive right in. So in shoujo manga, I was really surprised at this number actually. I only read 4 volumes of shoujo manga this month, which that's usually my highest number, but it wasn't this month, so I was a little bit floored. When it comes to shonen manga that I read 2 volumes. When it comes to seinen manga that I read, that's just 1. And then for josei, that's where the primary amount of titles comes in at 9 volumes. And I'm really happy to see that, actually. I've been wanting to read more josei, and this is great. The other thing to remember with these stats is it does not include any of my rereads. So if you want information on the things that I reread this month, I will leave the Reread Roundup linked for you, where I talk a little more in depth about each of the titles that I read, which is Everyone's Getting Married and Roseblood by A.G. Howard. So those are the 2 that I reread in the month of January. So again, check out that video for more information. Now, 15 of these things I consumed during Smutathon earlier in January, and I did do a wrap-up of those things at the end of Smutathon. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the Smutathon vlog linked for you as well, and I won't go into depth on the things that I read during Smutathon either, just because I've already done that on my channel and I'm trying to become less redundant on the channel as much as possible. So let's get into the things that I did not reread this month and I did not read during Smutathon. So let's just start with the manga and then we will go into the books. If you're looking just for books, here's your timestamp, because I know I do have some people who don't necessarily care for manga and just want to get to the books. So there's your timestamp for those, and let's dive right in. So first up on the list for manga, we have volume 4 of Our Dreams at Dusk. This was one that was a high priority for me to finally get to this month, and I am really pleased with how this ended up concluding. Most of the storylines are actually still pretty open-ended, which I do like in this slice of life style manga. This is a very hard-hitting manga dealing with LGBT topics. There are a lot of LGBT slurs thrown at the characters throughout the series, so if you are sensitive to those, please just tread with caution, but the story is very important. I plan on, as I have children, to have them read this manga so that if they don't feel so inclined towards members of the LGBT community, I still want them to be kind and understand that the way they're treated in this manga is not okay and open up a dialogue and discussion with them. But I absolutely loved this. My one complaint about this is the moment of this wedding that's taking place on the cover is actually a lot shorter than I expected it to be. So I just wanted a little more of that moment, but otherwise it was really well done. Next up, we have Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts, Volume 8. You guys know that I am madly in love with this series. It is definitely one of my all-time favorites, and I just adore it. And this series is about a young woman who's been raised her entire life to become the sacrifice to the King of Beasts here. And through circumstances that are very spoilery and I never share, she ends up becoming the bride of the King of Beasts instead of his sacrifice. And things go from there. It's very politically charged. We're dealing with people, how do I put this? Their discriminations against certain races and certain beings throughout this particular volume, and it was so well done. I continue to love each and every volume of this, and it deals with some harder hitting topics than I expected initially, but I love it for that so very much. This is a really underrated series. I feel like I'm the only one who talks about it, or if anybody else is talking about it, it's because I've told them to read it. So it's my goal to get more people to read this one. It's so good. I really, really love it, and I really hope you guys give it a chance. Next up, we have 2 volumes here from the same series, and that is Volume 4 and Volume 5 of Eden Zero. I've finally gotten caught up, even though the next volume is out this month in February. So this is a series very much like Fairy Tale, but it does take place in space. And we see some familiar characters and some familiar looks to characters. And it's just, this one goes to darker places than I think Fairy Tale ever really went. So I definitely recommend checking this out if you liked the art in Fairy Tale, but it was a little too, for me, from what I've been told from anybody who's read all of Machuma's work, this is the best blend of Rave Master and Fairy Tale. So you do have friendship notes throughout the series, but you also have some of those deeper, harder things that you deal with in Rave Master. So I've really been enjoying it. These 2 volumes in particular, I like the characters that we're adding to our cast, and it's just been a good fit for me, much more than I expected it to be. Thank you to Lohali, who talked about this enough that I finally picked it up. I've really been enjoying my read of this, and I recommend that people give it a try. All right, next up here, we have 2 more volumes, and that is SP Baby. This is by Maki and Joji, who also does An Incurable Case of Love and Happy Marriage. I have not read Happy Marriage yet, but I have read An Incurable Case of Love, and I'm loving it so far. And SP Baby is about this woman who ends up inadvertently becoming a security guard to a man whose uncle is in politics, and, you know, he's kind of heavily involved in it as well, and so they end up needing protection. And so she provides his protection. All of it's really funny. They end up falling in love. It's only 2 volumes. This is the complete series. It's really cute. It's a cute little josei. Once they get to the point where they're together, it's nice. I really like it. And he reminds me a lot of Takane from Takane and Hana. So if you like Takane and Hana, you like Takane in particular, try out this series. It's really fun. It's a josei, so it's a little more grown up than Takane and Hana. Obviously, we're dealing with adults here. So I loved this a lot. I would give it a solid 4 stars. Not quite 5 stars. They're not like my new favorite, but I definitely enjoyed them and will revisit them. All right, next up. This is technically a reread, but I'm still counting it because it's the physical copy. And that is Living Room Matsunaga-san Volume 1. It's so beautiful. I'm so happy. This is an age gap romance that also has a boarding house element to it. So in this, we have Miko, sorry. And she is moving into a boarding house because her uncle travels a lot for work. And living in this boarding house is Matsunaga-san, and he's basically kind of the manager of the boarding house when her uncle's not around. And he's a bit older, he's a graphic designer and works from home, so she ends up interacting with him the most, and they have a lot of really cute interactions in this first volume, and it's just really fun. I really love the cast of characters in this particular series, and everything in this is handled really, really well when it comes to the age gap. I know people get icky feelings about age gaps. This one's really not an icky one. It works out really well, and I really like all the characters, and the art is absolutely beautiful. I mean, where is that panel? Where is that magical, beautiful panel? Come to mommy, right? Ah, here. It's so good, guys. Like, I took count of how many times you see Matsunaga without his shirt on in this volume. That's 4. There's 4 different times you see him without his shirt. The art is beautiful. He's very handsome. And yes, he's tall for a Japanese guy. So anyways, I really like it. It's really cute. Definitely want more people to be reading this. I'm so excited it's finally in print. I've been keeping up with the digital releases as well. But yes, I love it so very much. Next up, we have The Rose of Versailles Volume 1. I did an entire reaction vlog to this particular volume. I will leave that linked for you. But essentially, this is a historical manga in which we're dealing with the period of Marie Antoinette and everything happening in France at the time, as well as the beautiful female guard, Oscar. And everybody thirsts for Oscar, and it's amazing, and I love it a lot. This one got 5 stars. It's led me to realize that I love this classic art style a ton. So if you like reading the classic art style in shoujo, let me get your recommendations in the comments down below, because I definitely want to be reading more of it. Then we also have Cardcaptor Sakura Collector's Edition Volume 3. I've also just continued to read these as they come out, and I continue to love each volume. Now, there are going to be 5 or 6 of these. I can't remember exactly how many, but each one is just beautiful and stunning, and they each come with a little Clo card, and once you have them all, they make a picture all together. So I think in the last one, I'll just kind of tape them all into the last one as a complete picture, because I think it will be really fun that way. But I continue to love this. Feelings are much more revealed in this particular one, and it's just a really good time. I really enjoy this, and these editions are beautiful. I wish Kodansha did more hardbacks. I almost wish they'd done their Sailor Moons in hardback, but the French floppy paperback works really well too. So anyhow, love these, continuing to love it. Alrighty, all of the other manga that I read this month you can find in the Smutathon vlog, so definitely check that out. All right, now we are on to the books. I did have 3 books that I DNF'd this month, so let's briefly talk about those. The first one we're going to talk about is Enchanté by Gita Turlis. The reason I DNF'd this one was primarily the writing, but secondarily I wasn't enjoying the story or the characters. So in this one, the reason that the writing wasn't working for me is because they were trying to mix French words and English words in a really jumbled up and jarring way. And being somebody who knows French, it didn't always make sense to me. So I didn't really enjoy this. And I'm really sad about it. I really wanted to love this, but it just didn't work for me. And I'm super bummed because I really wanted to love it. And it's a beautiful hardback and I really wanted to be able to keep it, but I've told myself I'm not going to keep things if I can't finish them. And this is the second time I've tried, so I'm just going to send this one away because I'm running into the same problems each time. So this one was a miss for me. Secondly on this list, we have The Girl the Sea Gave Back. First up, when I picked this up, I didn't realize it was a sequel. And I didn't care enough about the characters after what I'd read to go back and pick up the first one anyway. So it just didn't work for me. I felt that I just didn't care. And if you just don't care about your character, like, it's not gonna work. So this one got DNF'd as well. And then last but not least, for the books that I did not finish this month, that is Lady Hotspur by Tessa Gratton. Again, this is another one where I didn't care about any of the characters. I just felt kind of dropped in the story. And the writing was okay, but it wasn't enough to keep me going because I'm having a quick trigger finger on all of that, I guess. So yes, I did not finish this one either, and I am kind of sad about it. I wanted to love it because it does have notes of Shakespeare woven into it, and I just didn't care, and I'm really sad that I didn't care. The next one we're going to talk about is Path of Daggers by Robert Jordan. This is book 8 in the Wheel of Time series. Yes, book 8. Anyways, at this point in the story, we're pretty far in, so I can't really tell you too much in a wrap-up because of spoilers, but I continue to enjoy the direction that this is going. This book focuses a lot on Egwene and some particular choices that Egwene is making for the situation that she is in. That's about as vague as I can get, but that's the only way I can say anything without being spoilery. In the beginning of this book, though, there's a moment between two characters where they're arguing and bickering like an old married couple, and it fed my soul in the best way. So that's all I'm going to say. Those of you who know the series know what I'm probably talking about, but I just continue to enjoy this. This one I gave 4 stars instead of 5. I've given the last couple 5 because I really enjoyed them, but this is definitely a platform book for what's going to happen in the next book, which I'm intending to pick up soon, maybe in February, maybe not, we'll see, but by March at the latest, because I really want to get this series finished this year. So anyways, book 8, it was good, it was solid, but I am looking forward to what all of this book is going to mean in the next one and in the future. So moving on. We have an arc that I meant to get to in 2019 but didn't, and that is Upon the Flight of the Queen by Howard Andrew Jones. This is the second book in, I forget the name of the series, but the first book is For the Killing of Kings. I will leave that linked for you so that you can check out that review and so you can get a grasp of this. But this is a very politically charged fantasy. This one is very, very action-packed. So if you like fast-paced, action-packed fantasy, this series is going to be a really good fit for you. I really enjoy the characters and the writing, and I'm really looking forward to the concluding book, which I think comes out later this year. I'm not 100% sure, but there was only like 8-ish months between book 1 and book 2 publishing. So I think we'll get book 3 pretty soon because this came out in November. So I'm hoping to get it soon, but I really enjoyed this. And as always, my Goodreads is linked down below. So if you want more in-depth details on any of the titles that I talk about, you can always check out my Goodreads review. Next up, we have An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This was a really interesting read for me. In this, we're dealing with a young woman who paints fae in exchange for protections on her house and things. And one day, the Autumn Prince of the Fae Court comes to have her paint his portrait. And in it, she ends up showing human emotion in the painting. And because of that, he's basically in a lot of trouble. And so he's come back to the human world to take her to be tried in the fairy kingdom. And it's much more political than that. With this book, I wish it had like an extra 100 pages so it had some room to breathe, so that character development wasn't quite so rushed. I wish we could have spent a little more time with our characters and getting to know them a little bit better, and made the love between the two main characters a little more believable, because you have a hard time believing it when everything happens so fast. So yes, that's kind of where I'm at with this one. Now we have A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer. Now, this one I ended up giving 4.5 stars. I did not enjoy this quite as much as the first book in the series, because I feel like we have some of our characters who are acting the polar opposite of the way they did in the first book, and that made for some struggle. I felt like those choices were made specifically just for plot, which is a little disheartening, but I do understand why the author did that, so I'm not necessarily mad about that, if that makes sense. But I just wanted a little bit more from that, but we are getting a 3rd book in this Cursebreaker series, and this book, I don't think it really suffered from second book syndrome. It was really engaging on its own. We definitely get some new characters in this one, and I really enjoyed it. If you want more of my spoilery thoughts, I will link the live show in which April and I discussed this for Tell It Again, and I will leave that available to you so that you can hear all the thoughts. But this is primarily following Gray and a new character named Leah Mara. So I'm going to leave it at that, and we're moving on. 4.5 stars, it was good. Alrighty, let's get to the rest of the things that I consumed digitally, either audiobooks or... Next up, we have an audiobook, and that is Brant's Return by Mia Sheridan. This is one in which we're dealing with an old man who has failing health, but is estranged from his son after the death of his wife. And the son blames the dad for the death and blah, blah, blah. It's really kind of flighty and all over in that side of the story. But this is about the old man's assistant calling up the son and just letting the son know that his father's passing away and that he might have a chance to mend some bridges. And so he ends up coming home, I believe, to Tennessee, and he gets to know this assistant and they have a romance, and it's centered around this ranch in New York City where he owns a bunch of like high-end clubs and bars, and it's really interesting. Solid 4 out of 5 stars. Not perfect, but really enjoyable nonetheless. It does play with a trope that bugs a lot of the people in the community, aka accidental pregnancy. So I will put that in there, that trope is present in this particular novel. So just know that going in, but I did end up enjoying it. That's why it got a star knocked off, just so you know. Next up, we have The Will and the Wilds. This is a new book that came out in January that I received an e-arc of. In this one, I loved the concept, but the execution didn't hit quite right with me. I felt like the setting was beautiful, but the characters were two-dimensional. Like, there wasn't any depth to them, and that really bothered me, if I'm honest. So that is a thing that happened, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It's just not my favorite. It's still good. So if you're interested at all in a, you know, magical wood kind of story, definitely give it a try. Essentially, she makes a pact with a demon. The demon wants her soul completely. She's given him a taste, and they're both kind of in limbo because of this pact that they've made. So that's kind of the general premise of it, but yeah. Next up, we have Tweet Cute by, I believe it's Emma Lord. I don't remember the author's name right off, but it's on the image there. This is about 2 teenagers who are falling in love online, but they're also warring with each other online. Their parents both own rivaling restaurants, and they're in an epic battle online. But there's also a place that they're chatting online that their schools don't technically allow, in which they're falling in love, and then they interact in real life and they start to fall in love. And it's just really cute. I really enjoyed it. 4 stars. Again, very solid YA romance. Definitely worth checking out, even in February. So the next 3 I'm going to talk about are technically graphic novels, and this is the Star Trek Picard Countdown comic series. So these were comics to help prepare you for the new show Star Trek Picard, which Steve and I are watching. We've watched the first 2 episodes. We're loving it. We're living for it. It's just great. We love it. And it's one of those things where I am genuinely enjoying the journey to, like, from what happened in the last movie to the new series. Things have happened to Picard. He leaves Starfleet, and you get all of the kind of the background behind all of that. And it's really, really good. I highly encourage people to, if you're a Star Trek fan, like, read them, go watch the show. It's good, I promise. We're loving it. And yes. The next one I have here is an audiobook that I listened to, and this is another one by Mia Sheridan called Seek. So this is one that I ended up once again giving 4 stars. It's not perfect, but I still really enjoyed it. And in this, we are following a man who is very secretive but knows his way around Colombia, and this young woman with some money who has this fiance that's run off on her, and so she's going to Colombia to find him because there was a storm down there and they got trapped, and so she was just afraid that he couldn't reach her. And so she goes down to figure out what's going on because they were supposed to be on their honeymoon at this point, and she just hasn't heard a word. And so she needs to go and get closure, whether that's them still together or them not together, because she has considered the fact that he could be down there with somebody else and just have left her. And it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely not going to be a story for everyone. There's definitely some problems within the story, but I did really enjoy it, and it was just a good listen. It's on Audible Escape, so you can just check it out if you already have the membership. And next up, we have Marriage of Inconvenience by Penny Reed. I believe this is the final book in the Knitting in the City series. This is a book that has been teased since, like, book 1.5. So I've been waiting for this book for a very long time. It's the last book in the series. So this is the book about Kat and Dan the security man, and I was living for the whole thing. Essentially, she asks Dan, her friend of years at this point, to marry her so that her cousin, who's currently running the company that she is an heiress of, doesn't try to have her committed so he can just keep all of her money. So it's one of those things in which it's a marriage of convenience, forced living quarters. Like, it's so good, guys. It's just so good. I absolutely adore this book so much. This is a series that I know a lot of people didn't like the first couple of them, but I feel like it just got better with each book. So I think Penny Reed's writing just got better, and I just really, really enjoyed it. And I do want to start the Winston Brothers series next by her. So that'll be the next set of books from Penny Reed that I try reading. I tend to enjoy most romances. These ones tend to be a little bit longer and wordy, and that's why some people have problems with them. But I really like that. I like the intelligent writing that's there. It's engaging to me, and it lends really well to an audio format for me. So take that into consideration if you're going to try these, but I absolutely loved it. So Marriage of Inconvenience is probably my favorite out of all of the Knitting in the City series. So even if you didn't like the first couple, just read Kat and Dan's book and you'll get the scope on everything else in the series. Next up, we have an e-arc that I received, and that is Forever Strong by Piper Drake. And this is another one in her True Heroes series. This is one where it's based in Hawaii. Your characters do tend to have some racial diversities to me. I'm just white Caucasian. And so there's a variety of races and mixed races that you deal with within the series. And I absolutely love it for that. But these are always like undercover, taking down smuggling rings style romances. So they're a little more romantic suspense, but they're really good. I really enjoy them. This particular one was extra good and solid 4 stars. Absolutely enjoyed it. Definitely check out this series if you haven't and you like more of that suspense kind of romance. And then the last one we're going to be talking about is It's All About the Cowboy by Carly Bloom, I believe. This is a novella that is coming out from this series. We're getting more of that series in a couple months, maybe March. I don't remember, but it's coming out soon. And this one was just a short little story about 2 people in a small town. One is kind of forced to move away, and the other doesn't understand and feels heartbroken, but she comes back because of a funeral, and they're reacquainted, and they get to know one another, and there is a young girl who has some mental disabilities, also kind of in the middle of the story, and I think the representation on that was really well done. But again, it's just a little short novella. I think it's maybe 100 pages. It's not very long at all, but it was enjoyable to me. I really enjoyed the setting, and I really enjoyed the characters. The smut was fantastic, and we're going to leave it at that. So, friends, that is all the stuff that I ended up reading in the month of January. I know this video has been incredibly long. If you made it to the end, give yourself a high five in the comments because you definitely deserve it, and I'm giving you one on my end. So, thank you guys for watching this video. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I would love it if you would subscribe and click the little bell so you know when I post new videos. And I also, as always, guys, a like and a comment makes my day. This is YouTube. You guys know what to do. I will see you guys in the next one.